So we're gonna read scary stories from Reddit. I know Sanrio. I love Hello Kitty. I mean, look at this. Oh my god, tell it to go away. Tell it to go away. Close your blinds. Side note, I have a neighbor. I don't know if anyone has like that one neighbor in your neighborhood that never closes their blinds. It will be like 10 p.m. at night and their like window is like freaking bright and you can see everything in there. I swear to God, I have a neighbor like that. And I feel like I've seen a couple of these houses in different neighborhoods throughout life. I don't know. Don't know. Those people, they're a whole different type of breed of people because I could never leave my blinds like bright open for the world to see at 10 p.m. at night. No, thank you. And I can see from like the front all the way to like the back of the house. Couldn't be me. So. And I literally have tea as like I'm sipping it. Okay. So I'm just gonna read ghost stories from Reddit. Yesterday's thread, there wasn't any updates, so unfortunately, but that was a really good list. So this one is from the Ghost Guy Man and on the Reddit thread Ghost Stories. During the pandemic, when this was very huge, everyone was in quarantine. 3 of my cousins came over to visit. They're on my Nana's side of the family. I live with my grandparents, and they are from Ohio. I remember when one of my cousins told me the story of how a ghost was in a photo of him that he took. Thank you. Basically, my cousin, when he was younger, played in the basement of his house a lot. They lived, and still do, live in a wonderful farmhouse with his siblings. So one time he and his friends came over to play, and while they were playing, his friend decided to take a photo of my cousin while they were on the stairs leading down into the basement. After he took a picture, he noticed that there was a black figure standing in the photo. We still have that photo. This story doesn't end here though. There is a lake not far away from where the farmhouse is. Years and years ago, there was a boy who drowned there tragically. So you probably see that where this is going, right? I think that the dark figure in the photo was a boy who drowned, and he drowned at a very young age, by the way. And it would also make sense because he was very young, and the black figure could have been there trying to play a trick on us or something. Heck, maybe the boy didn't even know that he was dead, making this a Sixth Sense type of scenario. Either way, this is just a theory. If I get the photo, I will update this and include it. Thank you, Luis. There's no picture on the thread, so I can't show you, but otherwise I would. Only in Ohio. Only in Ohio. I feel like Ohio, doesn't a lot of strange things happen in Ohio, right? Do you guys like my Libra cup? Okay. So that was not bad. I just wish they would have included the photo, but I digress. All right, so this one is called My Supernatural Experience. Do you have a story? Then this one is updated by Charleston Tracy. Sorry. Okay. On my 11th birthday, I received a Ouija board as a gift. Yes, a Ouija board. Before anyone scoffs at this gift, consider it a game and it's sold as a toy. And it was sold at a Toys R Us and some kids like being scared, and that was us. Let's pause for a second because I saw a Ouija board being sold at a Barnes & Noble this last weekend, so not far from this. Anyway, I had a sleepover with my friends after receiving it and we all used it, and of course, nothing. So nothing happened because it's just a game, right? Well, a few weeks went by and my best friend was staying the night. We had dinner and then my mom gave us ice cream inside coffee mugs. We asked if we could take it to my room to eat and my mom said yes. We were sitting on my daybed and when we finished with the ice cream, we decided to play with the Ouija board. We placed our mugs on the floor right next to the bed and started messing with the board. Nothing ever really happened, but it was just as exciting to be a little scared. When we were ready for a break, I reached down to grab the mugs. I immediately froze. when I realized that not only were the spoons not in the mugs, they were next to the mugs, both broken on the neck. I started crying and took everything to my mom. She took the game away and I never saw it again. Still gives me goosebumps to this day. I just can't think of anything that would have caused the spoons to break. It's something that I really don't like to think about. Do you have a story? So that's how they have one. Yeah, I think Ouija boards, I know I explained this yesterday. I think, Ouija boards are just a divination tool. It's all about intention. But yeah, I mean, I really need to do a story on Helen's Northworthy. I did one about a year and a half ago at this point. It didn't do very well. Maybe I just need to rechange the format or something. But I don't know. It felt like no one was interested in that story, which I find so fascinating. The mother of the Ouija board and how it became patent. So I don't know. Okay. Let's see if there's another one. So here's another one. So it's the comment within the thread. So it's the person is maximum effort for 20. So this is what they said. When my mom passed away, I got home late and I was like 12. I remember laying down in my brother's bunk bed because he was camping with school. And before I fell asleep, I saw a figure of a woman. Then I fell asleep, and a couple of weeks after her funeral, I had dreams of me camping, and the sky was telling me to come with them. It was my mom's voice. I had dreams of that for months until I saw it. I said, "Mom, you're scaring me." It was my mom's voice. I had dreams until months, and I kept saying, "Mom, you're scaring me," and it didn't happen again. But years before my mom passed away, I had an asthma attack and had to spend a week longer, and I wasn't awake. I remember having a dream of me in my old family's kitchen, and I was near the garbage, and out of nowhere, a hand popped out pulling me in. It almost pulled me in, and out of nowhere, I woke up, and it was midnight, and my mom was sleeping in the chair. She woke up, and I tried to talk about it, but my voice was gone. She heard me anyway, but I could barely talk. I remember being in the ambulance and waking up at midnight and needing to use the bathroom. And apparently, I was sleeping for a week. That was really a spotty story. I couldn't understand it very well. But anyway, thank you, Denise, for sharing the live. Okay. I don't know. That was an interesting one. All right. So this one is called Encounter with a Shadow Person. And the user is German_99. All right. Oh, thank you for the roses. So this happened a few years ago. There has been much activity in the house since. It was a quiet summer night in about 2015 or 2014. My oldest brother claimed to have encountered this thing before with his girlfriend, and it scared them both enough to where they were sitting outside the house too scared to go back inside. So when I came back from the grocery store, this is where all this goes, right? The story goes as follows. In the basement, the only bedroom is set up with a bed facing the doorway. When this door is open, you can see outside the living room downstairs. My brother and his girlfriend were laying down on the bed together talking. He was facing the wall and she was facing towards the doorway. She looked up from their conversation to see a little girl watching them from the doorway. She was obviously scared, but not wanting to alarm my brother. Now, she didn't say anything, and she looked up again. This time, the girl was next to the bed. She had enough and wanted to get out of the house immediately. I've looked at the story with skepticism, as I've never really encountered anything paranormal myself. Of course, until it was my turn. That's how it usually goes, right? Fast forward to 2015 or 2014, when this room was now in the possession of a different brother of mine. We were both into art, and I like to hang it on his room. And I like to hang out with him in there. So anyway, because he owned most of the art supplies, we turned it into a makeshift art studio when he wasn't sleeping, of course. We had the door open, and the light outside in the living room was turned off. I was sitting on his bed working in his sketchbook when I look up and see the dark outline of a little girl. She was watching me from the doorway. I don't feel particularly threatened or endangered of this, just confused at what I'm looking at. Now I know it's a girl because I can see her short hair stopping at the shoulders. She also was wearing a dress, though it didn't look long enough to be like a gown. She held her arms straight down, though slightly outwards as she was walking only moments before. The thing that stuck out with me was I couldn't see her face. I was trying to make sense of what was happening just as my brother gets up in a hurry and closes the door. He then asks me, "Did you see that too?" To this day, we still talk about what we both saw in the basement. It's been very quiet since. This is an older house built in the 1950s with many different owners. I couldn't tell you what happened here as I don't know. Only that visitors often say they feel uneasy here and that sometimes my dog behaves very strange. Maybe he sees things I can't. I've always been open-minded to the paranormal, but not necessarily religious. I have a deep love for science, but I cannot explain what I saw that night. Oh, thank you, Just Ashley, for the roses. Well then. Someone suggested that they researched their property. I feel like when you start to have like experiences, it's only a matter of time that people research their house. You never know. Hi, thanks for joining. Hi, hello. I don't know. I just think that like when you live in an old house and like different people in the house start to have experiences, I think it is best to like investigate what is the history of the house, you know? I think like the closest thing I've ever like dived deep into was Riverdale Road. So for context, I lived in Colorado, and one of the most haunted roads in Colorado is known as Riverdale Road. And it got to a point where I got so into the story that I actually reached out to the library and they sent me like newspaper clippings and stuff like that because like some of the stuff that happened there was not, you cannot find it online. So fun stuff. Hi. So the most haunted thing, I know I've said it a few different times on here, so I apologize for some people that may have heard the story already, but I think I've had a few different experiences. I think the first one that I always tell people, like, because it's the closest like memory, like the earliest memory of like a paranormal experience I've ever had, was when I thought I heard something mimic my sister's voice when she was not in the house with me and my other sister. Yeah, I love Colorado. I miss Colorado so much. I really, really miss Colorado. Yeah, I did research on Riverdale Road. I kind of tied in the theory. So there's a couple of things with Riverdale Road. So there's like a phantom runner, the Gates of Hell, which is no longer up there. They actually put a park in place in that area. And then they have like this indigenous lore of like the wolf and the coyote. I believe the coyote is bad and the coyote is good, the wolf is bad or something. It's like a bad omen or something like that. The other thing is there's a phantom car that would drive people off the road, and when I looked into this, I found out about like this missing girl that was, her car was found in a ditch on Riverdale Road, and like they found the car in the ditch and her body like not too far from there. So yeah, like the whole thing with owls is super fascinating because like in some cultures owls are bad omens, and then there's like, especially with like Latino lore, my mom's told me different types of things with that. But yeah, so with this woman, this poor girl, she was working at a 7-Eleven. She went to drop off her coworker home, and then she was never seen for like many weeks. I think this was actually around Christmas, New Year's too, sadly enough. And they had found her body, I think 2 weeks into January. And what's even more fascinating about this story is that like So again, I couldn't find anything online. Like I search and search and search. So I reach out to the library, and out of all times, I searched for this during the lockdown. So when the librarian had reached out to me, she sent me like these newspaper clips of like the whole case of this poor girl who had gone missing. And it turns out that like they used a psychic medium to try to locate this girl and everything. Like it gets really interesting. And unfortunately, like there's not much coverage after that. So I did like a YouTube video on it. And I believe that like the phantom car that people were mentioning, it actually matches the description of like the girl's car. But anyway, Lechusa, yes, Lechusa. We did recently, I pitched that story for Something Scary on YouTube, and we covered that story, so that was cool. Do you think black cats are really unlucky? I don't. I think cats they're protectors of spirits or evil spirits. I think they are also, I've actually heard of like witches working with like cat whiskers and stuff like that. So I think like cats hold a very good significance in terms of like spiritual work. Ooh, white owls. I haven't heard that rendition, but I can totally see that. My mom just scared of owls all around, so she's like told me just like in general the owls. But that's really cool. I didn't know that in some parts. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, Psychic Mike. Thank you. So yeah, so that's kind of how I feel about owls. I mean, well, you know what's interesting about the white owl, like the barn owls? Have you guys ever seen, what is that movie? It's the one based, I always forget the movie, and I should remember it because it actually gave me the heebie-jeebies. That movie made me paranoid for many months. It was the one where like people go missing in Alaska, and like people were seeing aliens, and then they try to attach it to like owl sightings or something like that. And like you know what's so funny? When I watched that movie, I think, is it called The Fourth Kind? Is that what the movie's called? Right? I have a computer in front of me. I should look it up. The Fourth Kind. Yes, it was The Fourth Kind. That movie scared me. It scared me so much because so the whole thing with that movie is that wasn't there like a therapist, and she's trying to like either hypnotherapist or a therapist, and she like does a deep dive, and then like these people are revealing like they've had alien abductions, and then it's like attached to like, oh, thank you for the roses, thank you, so sweet. But then they attach, I don't know, there's like some connection with like the owls and like the barn owls. And I can see why people would confuse that. Like if they thought they saw an alien, it would be like a barn owl. But here's even the weirder part, in not just like aliens or whatever, but it turns out that Nome, Alaska is one of the most visited places by the FBI. And like a lot of people go missing. I don't know, man. And I'm sure if we're not being superstitious or supernatural based, there could be so many factors into that. But like it just creeps me out. When I went to Alaska, so I went to Anchorage, Alaska. I didn't go anywhere like really far off. Well, we went to Seward. It's a very beautiful place, and it's very woodsy. So, I mean, I can see people like succumbing to the natural habitats and stuff like that. Ooh, interesting. I should probably do like this is making me want to go into like the deep dive. Oh yeah. I love Sanrio. Thank you. Bad luck will befallen anyone who hears an owl hoot 3 times. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's that. Okay, so I'm gonna like this one. I will now look for another scary story on the Reddit thread. Imaginary Friends. We'll read this one. So this one is posted by Top G135790, and this is called Imaginary Friends. For privacy reasons, I'm not going to include some details in this story. Just all I can tell you is what my little brother saw resembled pass away from family members who were taken away from us very early. You know how kids have this weird ability to see ghosts? Well, I'm pretty sure he saw several of them. The first time he saw one was my stepdad's father, who passed away before my little brother was born. One day he went up to my mother as sad. Oh, sorry. Sometimes like the errors get me to stutter, so I apologize. So one day he went up to my mother and said there was a man upstairs. Hearing this, my mother was horrified as it was only her and my siblings home alone. She grabbed the gun we kept on top of the fridge and swept the upstairs area. She never found anything, so she asked him to describe the man he saw. He then described someone who my mother found vaguely familiar. My mother found the old family photo book and told him to stop her when she sees a man. After a few minutes of flipping pages, he finally stops her and points at the man. The man in the photo was my stepdad's father, the same guy whose ashes was in the same room as where he claimed to see him, and said the same man who built the house they were all standing in. The other time, myself and Leo, who is my little brother, were standing under the old wooden jungle gym we kept in front of the yard when Leo brought up a few new friends he made, and asked Leo to tell me all about that, intending to be a good brother. Leo pointed up to the attic window and said they were both up there. A little shocked, I asked him what he meant by that. Leo said that they both talked to him from the attic. How old are they? I asked. He said a few years older than him. I asked him for their names and gender. Leo says one was a male and his name was Michael. I don't know their gender, but I don't know their gender. So then I asked, what did they look like? I was very shocked. Michael had black hair. Leo said the next thing he said gave me literal nightmares. He claimed that one of them had no face or hair of any kind. Oh, that terrifies me too. Okay. So he said he had no hair or face of any kind. I was terrified as I recognized them as two family members who passed away during birth. One of them we never found out the gender of, and was never named due to them dying during childbirth. I kept my composure and told them to tell them I said hi. Later on after dinner, I pulled my mom into a different room and told her what had happened earlier that day. I'll never forget the honesty in his voice and the details he got perfectly without even knowing that they even existed. Okay, I have to agree though. I do like hearing this phenomenon of like children being spot on and like getting details and stuff. So we're reading from the Ghost Stories Reddit thread. Someone said, I love to hear about this kind of phenomenon, as children most experience this to some degree. It demonstrates our natural abilities as human beings. Most grow out of this and close their own minds off to it, but there are a few who are able to retain it. Okay, but the no hair, no face, like that would have scared me. I would have like, okay, we're done. Stop telling me more. we gotta go cleanse this space. Let me go back. All right. Also, I'm going to dye my hair because I feel like I've had the same hairstyle for 2 years now. And I think it's time. I mean, I had the red and had purple bangs. I switched it, but I've been keeping this like turquoise teal color, and I think it's time for a change. So stay tuned for that. Just felt like randomly sharing that. Okay. So this one is called Odd Occurrences. So this was posted by justcanary_3212. Oh my god. Skinwalkers. I don't know about that, man. Okay. So I've always had this weird ability to sense when something bad has happened somewhere, and I definitely have like this sixth sense. So when the hairs on my back, it's like when the hair on your back stand up, you know someone around you is up to no good. But this is a new thing. I had a baby last year and ended up needing emergency surgery a month after giving birth. I had just come home about a week ago and then ended up at the hospital. It was my first night taking care of the baby post-op because my husband had to work late. I'm standing at the changing table getting him ready for bed, and I feel what feels like a soft hand on the back right between the shoulder blades. So on the back shoulder blades. I kind of twist around thinking it's just my shirt or something, but it happens again. So I twist again, and it happens a third time. So this time I acknowledge whatever it is and say hello and introduce them to my baby. And the hand pressure stops. Now, this happens a few more times over the next month or so. Not sure who it is. So fast forward to about 3 weeks ago, it happens again while I'm standing in the kitchen. Not going into detail, but someone I'd known had taken their life the day prior. Now, things are falling off the shelf at random times. Okay, so this doesn't make sense, but I'll try to read as best as I can. Said person visited me in a dream that night of their passing. It's just very odd things I had not experienced at all. I'm quite clumsy, so the things falling off shelves could be my fault, but it's just been really weird. I told my mom about these occurrences and come to find out that she's experienced more than I have and never told me. So I would like some insight if anyone has anything or experienced anything like this, like the hand pressure thing. Felt like just enough to pressure. Then she adds, felt like just enough pressure to feel it. Fingertips and a little pop. Oh gosh. Interesting. I astral projected once and saw a little girl ghost in my apartment when I was in my 20s. Oh my gosh. I'm scared of astral projecting. I'm so scared of that. I feel like because I'm actually clinically OCD. So I just feel like I would just be so anxious driven if that happened to me. How do you, I guess for those that have astral projector, like CM, how do you feel like you go back in your body? Because, has anyone seen, what was the movie where the little boy gets lost in between worlds? I forgot the name of that. I should know it. It's not The Conjuring. I'm gonna look it up because the actor, I know Patrick Wilson, right? He was in a couple different movies. This is not Insidious. There we go. Insidious. There we go. I should know. I just watched it in October. How the heck did I forget? I'm always scared of that stuff. I don't know why, but I'm so paranoid about that. I had a coworker of mine tell me that she once astral projected and she saw this figure that had a skull for a face or something like that. And she panicked and was trying to get back into her body and she couldn't or something like that. I'm yeah, I don't know about this. And it could not be astral projecting. I don't know. But yeah, it's that I will have to say that is something that I do get a little bit kind of scared. Yeah, Patrick Wilson. I just realized that Patrick Wilson is in so many scary movies. Yeah, little Scream King here, huh? Annabelle. Well, that's all part of the series. I guess Watchmen wasn't scary, but you know. Yeah, I don't know. See, that's what I'm saying. You could see dark shadows and everything. I don't know about that. So my sister gave this to me. I think it might have been from Box Lunch. I know Box Lunch has a lot of really cute shirts right now. That would be my hard guess. I don't know where though, but Box Lunch tends to have a lot of cute stuff. And I know Michael's right now is having when I went the couple days before Christmas, they were having 50% off baking stuff, Hello Kitty baking stuff. And then that's why I got into the baking mode. Well, partially why I got into the baking mode for baking a cake. Yeah, the whole dark shadows turning into your body. My mom said that she felt like she astral projected once. We were listening to a Spanish podcast, a Spanish scary story, paranormal podcast. And the guy was in Spanish talking about astral projection. And my mom's oh my God, wait a minute. I think I've experienced this before. So I guess she fell asleep in the living room and she was home alone. And she saw herself levitate off her body into the ceiling, and she started having a panic attack. She felt like a balloon almost, floating away. listening from Prince Albert, Canada. Oh, cool. So cool. Okay, sorry guys. I know I get sidetracked here. I think like I'm in a weird state of like I feel energized because of like the black tea I'm drinking, but it's not enough caffeine. Oh man, I'm obsessed with Hello Kitty. I even have like a little Hello Kitty, speaking of that, I have like a little Hello Kitty. It's like just hanging out. Like, look at this, so cute. I don't use it, but I bought it. I'm like a sucker for Hello Kitty things. Seriously, I am. I even have like, okay, so behind me, if I don't knock anything over. Oh, I'm about to knock it over, so I don't know if I can take it off. Well, I can't take it off. Otherwise, I'm going to knock over the portrait. Bye. Have a good night. Let me get this. Who knows if the portrait will fall off. But I have to show you since we're on the topic of Hello Kitty. So this is a film camera. Some dust on it. It's like a Karopi film camera from like the 90s. I think my sister got it in like 1997 or something like that. And I kept it all these years. It's mine now. But yes, I love Sanrio. Black tea, yes. Okay, sorry guys. I know I keep getting into like other things here. Let me go back here to the original thread. Okay, this one seems to have a lot of votes. So this one's called My Terrifying Experience in College. And the user is jsunshine21. Hello, I've been putting off writing this for a while now because some people told me some of the people I told were horrified to be close to me afterwards. Ooh. I was a freshman in college. I wasn't doing well mentally. Okay. I wasn't doing well mentally, and a lot of these thoughts were jumping in my head randomly. My room was fairly sized. I had one roommate. We were doing fine. Halfway through the winter semester, I got horrible feelings of anxiety in this room. If I went to my friend's room, it would be fine, but I always felt like something was watching me. My roommate also started to feel this way. She would constantly be getting sleep paralysis and horrid dreams. She finally had enough and started sleeping at her boyfriend's, so that ended up that I was alone. Everything was gloomy. I had to sleep with some lights on because I felt like something was there. About 2 days later, my roommate was still not there, so I go to bed and I hear breathing. It wasn't close to me, but I could hear it. I was facing my roommate's bed behind me, and behind me was a brick wall. I open my eyes and I see this black figure laying down on her bed. I silently freaked out, but tried to stay still and kept watching. And when I did, it sat up and looked at me and had these burgundy red eyes, like a black mist emitting from its body, and I hated that. Immediately, I turned to the brick wall and start saying some mantras, not my first spirit, and covered my face with the blankets. When I thought it was going to be okay, I stopped, and all of a sudden, I felt something right near me, and the spirit in my ear said, "If you sleep tonight, I will kill you." Huh? I was terrified. I tried not to sleep, but I accidentally passed out, and oh boy, that dream I had thought that night was really weird. Basically, I was in a desert with these people sitting in a circle, and in the middle was a dark figure. They started chanting, and I was scared to say anything. I had no idea what was being said, but the leader was yelling at me to chant with them, but it was too late. And the dark figure stabbed me in the heart, and I just laid there until like this blue fire rose around me, and these circles with lines on the sides appeared all over my body, and I started chanting, and the dark figure died. I woke up falling out of the bed and clutched my chest because it felt like something stabbed me, but no blood, no open wounds. I never saw that spirit again after that. I called my RA, and she said last year some girls had some experience with a dark figure with red eyes. They ended up blessing up the room after the semester was over. It was definitely freaky. Hated every second of it. Oh my god. Oh, thank you. Yep. What is that? The freaking A? Like, I don't know about that, man. So the creepiest dream I had, this happened maybe 6 months ago. Yeah, definitely. You can either share it here, or if you feel like it's long and you won't be able to fit it all in here, you can always message me on Instagram. I also have my email in my bio. Feel free to, whatever is easy for you. The fact that, these girls had a creepy experience the year before, I don't know about that. Oh, gosh. Isn't that interesting? Wait, I did like it, right? I've been trying to, upvote all the ones I read. All right, so, this one seems a little long, but we'll read it. So this one is posted by Realist Hater with an 8. And the title is called Goats in the Kitchen. So I received a call from a couple who had recently purchased a new home and were having strange events occur in their barn. The backstory on this property is that the original home was built in the 1840s. The barn was added a few years later, but there was no record of it. The original house burned down in 1976, and a new one built on the old foundation was in 1981. So upon arrival, I noticed the property was impeccable, and although it was very rural and set far off from the back road, a driveway was added and paved to the house. This was unusual for the area and indicated for me a level of sophistication to the owners. In other words, they were the most likely not from a rural area. I was greeted at the door and invited in by a young couple that I would guess is in their mid-20s. The home was well kept and clean on the inside. It had been on the out. So the way that it was nice on the inside, it was also nice on the outside. We chatted for a few moments and they insisted that I see the barn. I noted that there was absolutely no feelings or atmosphere to the house. So then I followed them to the kitchen and the back door. There was a kitty fence blocking the entrance to the kitchen, preventing for miniature goats from exiting the kitchen. This was a shock since I had judged these people by what I witnessed up until this point. When I asked about the goats in the house, I was told that they had no choice because whatever was in the barn tried to kill them. They had lost 2 goats already, and the vet told them that they were likely frightened to death. Oh my god. Oh my god. That's scary. So approaching the barn, you could see that they had been at work putting their decorative style here also. From the outside, there was a new fence surrounding the front and creating a small yard of about 1/4 of an acre. It was clean and recently raked. The barn was in style of an old tobacco barn that had been repurposed and painted. As we entered, I noticed that the hair on my arms immediately had stood up. I definitely sensed something there. I asked if there was a specific area where there seemed to be more activity. I was shown the milking room that they had set up. The man told me that once the milking stall was installed, everything started. I asked for some time to poke around for myself and noticed that they practically had ran out when I was investigating. So I walked around the milking room for about an hour. That was a lot since it was a small room, and on the opposite side of the barn, I found another room slightly larger than the milking room. It had a concrete floor and freshly paneled and painted walls. It had electricity, a sink, and some equipment that was recognized as being used to make cheese. This room did not interest me at all. It felt very sterile and uncomfortable, like an operating room. I was sure nothing was lurking in there. Did you hear that? Did anyone hear that? I felt like... Anyway. It wasn't until I was walking around in the table area that I felt something. This part of the barn had only dirt floor, and although it was raked clean, it did not feel that way. I'm not a psychic, but I have learned to pay attention to my body and my impressions. And to be honest with you all, what I wanted to do in the area was work it clean myself. Perplexed, I summoned the man and asked him if he had found anything in that area. He seemed slightly embarrassed as he explained that along the wall there had been a deep trench with something that looked like a pile of old leather that had been folded and stacked on one end. He asked me not to tell his wife, but he had just covered it over instead of removing it as he felt like it was too dirty to touch. I asked for a shovel and assured him that I would not tell his wife and cover it back up when I finished. He agreed and provided a shovel before hurrying back to the house. 5 minutes later, I had located the leather. As the man had claimed, it was all dried and hard and did not look as if it was nothing that anyone could ever want to touch. As I fought to unwrap it, it was stuck with the feeling that it may cause me to get sick. I felt nauseated as I handled it. I was struck with the feeling that it may cause me to get sick. I felt nauseated as I handled it. Finally, it unfolded. I found a very old memo type book in it. The writing was still perfectly legible. It was a journal written by a Civil War soldier. As I scanned through it, about halfway through, I found the last page of writing. It had blood on it and said, "When you find me and read this, please tell Ma and Pa that I'm sorry. I tried to make it back home, but they caught me. I was shot, and I know I will die quick. Please get my body home and bury me by the stream. I live in Savannah. Signed, Jonas." I refilled the hole and took the journal and the leather to the front of the house. I asked a couple to come sit on the porch so that we could all talk. I showed them the journal and suggested that we hold a small memorial service to the barn. They invited only the neighbors, and they knew, and we just did that in the barn. But where I dug up the journal, I asked to take the journal with me, and the couple agreed. I took the journal to Savannah Historical Society and asked if they would keep it on display as a remembrance to a lost son. They agreed, and I gave it to them. 3 weeks later, when I checked back with the couple, I was informed that the goats were back in the barn and there were no longer any issues. Oh, goodness. Oh my God. That is like wild to me. They just found like a Civil War journal with like this sad note. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's so sad. Someone said, "It's amazing to witness the sensitivity animals have to spiritual phenomena. Of course, we too have it, but many of us have been programmed." Okay, this gets a little too Sixth Sense for me. But okay, honestly, so here's one thing I will say that I just think is important for anybody that's interested in like intuition and the supernatural. So in this story, he said that he doesn't consider himself a psychic, but he does pay attention to like how his body reacts to certain rooms throughout the house. I will say that like everyone's intuitive. Everyone has that ability. It's not like, I feel like the psychic medium stuff is over sensationalized in media, so people get the wrong idea, and so they're like, well, I don't have intuition, but it's like, no, everyone has it. Like the way he just described everything, like how the hair was standing up, how he felt certain parts of the house, like that is picking up energy. That's what it is in a nutshell. That's what it is. I mean, of course there's a little bit more to it, but in a nutshell, that's what it is. I feel like if people knew more of that, they would feel more confident in like tapping into that. Okay. So I upvoted that. I mean, some of these are good. Hello, Camila. Okay. So this one is a short one. It was posted by MegPie9, and it says, "I saw her in broad daylight." Now let's take this back to 2007. I was like around 8. When I was living in a small town, I lived super close to all my friends who were my neighbors, and we would ride our bikes up and down our street. It was a summer morning when I decided to ask my mom if I could go next door to my friends to ride bikes with me. She said yes, of course. So I went outside, grabbed my bike, and started walking up the hill to knock on my friend's door. As I was walking up with my bike, I saw a girl around my age at the time, standing at the top of the hill that I was walking up to. She was skinny, had blonde hair, and was what seemed to be in PJs. She was pretty far away from me, but I didn't mind her since I didn't know who she was. I kept walking, and all of a sudden, I hear a car coming from the other side of the hill. As I hear the car get closer, I started yelling her to move, and she would not budge. I start running towards her with my bike and kept yelling at her. She would not move, of course. At that point, the car had gotten so close that I closed my eyes. The car eventually drove past me, and I opened my eyes to see that she was gone. I ran up the rest of the way to see if she may have gotten out of the way in time, but when I got there, she was gone. Ooh. Interesting. I think that's another misconception too, that like hauntings only happen at night, but no, they can happen during the day too. I feel like there's a lot of, again, things get so sensationalized that people have like misconceptions of things. Don't mind me, I'm just drinking my tea. Okay, this one is pretty new, so we'll see. You know what? Okay, so this is interesting. I don't know if anyone knows this, but like I've been seeing some lives where like you can add captions, and like I don't know how to do that. How do you add captions? I'm so sad. I wish I could do that. Is it stickers? I guess I can add stickers, but I can't add a caption. Okay, so this can I delete it? No, I can't. I'm gonna drag it up here to delete it. There we go. I wanted to add, I wish I could add captions, but I don't think I can. Sorry, give me 1 second. No, I guess I can't. No, I guess I don't know. Well, that's fine. That is a-okay. All right, done messing around with that. So this one was posted by Jackie Rodriguez, #1. And the title's called Weird Finger Snapping Noise at My Parents' House. And for context, I did see someone reference the Warrens, so we'll get to that. Anyway, I no longer live with my parents, but ever since I was young, I randomly heard this weird sound at my parents' house. I will occasionally stay the night weekend at my parents' house and still hear this weird sound from time to time. It sounds like someone quickly is snapping their fingers really loud, and it happens like 3 times in a row. It's never any more or any less. When I say finger snapping, I don't literally mean snapping in half, breaking a bone. I mean like somehow like when you snap your fingers, like to a song or a beat. So when I hear the sound, I only hear it at night and in the downstairs foyer area when I make it to the upstairs on what we call the landing. So that's like the open living room space, like in the hallways and rooms. The foyer is very open, same with the landing. The stairs are right next to the foyer, and the ceiling from the downstairs foyer to the upstairs landing is completely open. From the floor to the ceiling, it's a good 24 feet, so there's some echo in that area. I don't hear the sound often, but when I do, it's always at night when I'm home alone. Sometimes it sounds close to me, and sometimes it doesn't. When I hear this sound, it gives me a feeling of like this panic adrenaline feeling, like I need to get the hell out of there. Last week, I stayed the stayed the night at my parents' house. It was around 2 a.m. I was downstairs watching TV in the living room. I went to the restroom and heard the sound again. The downstairs bathroom is in the small hallway that separates the downstairs foyer from the living room. I don't know why, but this time it scared the absolute shit out of me. Like, I don't even go to the bathroom. I just didn't even finish. I ran upstairs to my bedroom, leaving the downstairs TV on. I typically try to look at things logically for an explanation, especially with things like this, but I can't shake this ugly feeling. So I really get this ugly feeling when I hear these 3 snaps. Has anyone else experienced this? Also, if there's any significance to weird unexplained sounds like this in the set of 3, let me know. What the hell is this? And then that's when someone referenced the Warrens. They said, I saw this in a movie, not discrediting the user's experience, just making the point that this phenomenon was well documented by the Warrens. Though I've never investigated a snapping spirit, I've seen many cases where the spirit uses a method that it used while alive. Whistling, tapping, and sighing are very common. Oof. Oof. No, thank you. No, thank you. The snapping sounds. Nope, nope, nope. Okay. I will upvote it because we read it. Reread it. Okay. Maybe we should do another thread. Well, let's see. Let's see where my phone is at, because I have a horrible habit of like not charging my phone. It's just a really bad habit. I can't, I feel like, am I the only one? I probably am the only one. I'm probably the only one that like doesn't. What happens is I'll go to bed and I'll be like laying there. So I don't have the case on my phone right now, but I'll be laying there and I'm like, boop, boop, boop. And then I just pass out. I pass out and then I forget to charge my phone. And then it becomes like the charging Olympics for the rest of the day because I forgot to charge my phone. It's annoying, but yeah. But, you know, maybe this is just like a sign that I need to like be off my phone a little bit more. Okay, let's see. Oh, so this was posted not too long ago, but I don't see. Bummer. Hang tight while I find another Reddit thread. Okay, so this one was posted by Bull Moose Prez. Don't know what. Okay, so they said, I used to work at an old scout camp in the backwoods of our state. It was a decently popular site, and when it wasn't being used by one of the scout groups, we host day camps and week-long camping events for just regular kids and whatnot. There's a bunch of different sites on property, most of them in an inner ring nearby all the event spaces and whatnot. But there's also some more exciting and adventurous camping sites for older kids. So one of the sites was called Willow Wood. It was in a swampy area with a ton of willow trees, hence the name, and it was very beautiful, but it was also very creepy. Willow Wood wasn't used as often as it was our smallest site and our oldest. A lot of the buildings were actually repurposed from old trading posts or something like that. At least that's how the legend goes. And because the old buildings are creepy atmosphere, there were a lot of legends about Willow Wood. We'd really only use the site once or twice a year for big camporees, and because of that, whatever team was stationed there for that week was responsible for getting the camp set up. So each team was made up between 4 to 8 workers, each from different departments of the camp. So I was like in this ecology environment department, and my teammate, using a fake name obviously, Cody, Annalise, and Brody, So departments were survival skills, arts, and music, and adventure. Each team would with at least one person from the 4 departments would make we would make be guides who spent the night at each campsite, organize their events, and etc. etc. So my team was lucky enough to draw Willow Wood for a camporee week, which meant it was time to go down to business. Willowwood has a ton of legends, as I mentioned, and while there aren't really any records of these events happening, the camp takes them as true and we play off them a lot, hamming it up and really using the stories to our advantage. Our story is about the Wailing Woman, a 1700s French woman who was to be married to an English fur trapper after a long tramping trip. However, while they were at the trading post saying goodbye as he was heading to Canada to hunt beavers, she got a bad feeling and waited for him. She waited for weeks, but as the time passed, she got worse and worse feelings. Months went by, and she thought her beloved was never to return. However, she got word on his way back, and they were to be wed, all set up, including her wedding dress. However, when her fiancé did return, it wasn't alive, but his head only. The legend goes he encountered a group of Native Americans and pissed them off by stealing pelts from them, and so they killed them. They killed him. The woman was heartbroken to see her decapitated love and killed herself that night right in the trading post guest rooms. They say her spirit still haunts the area, and you can hear women screaming and crying. We hammed the story up a ton, and we scared the campers with the story, having one of us tell the story while the other person jumped out and scared them. Typical camping stuff. Well, it was the first day of the prepping camp, and we had to get new coats of paint on the buildings. So myself and Brody took the main lodge, which was apparently the old trading post with a large living room area and bedroom upstairs. And Elise took the smaller cabins, and Cody took the other 2. Now, I'm a skeptic and try to find explanations for everything, but when you know the legends and stories, you're on edge with every noise you hear. So I was touching up the walls on the side of the lodge while Brody was painting the upstairs room. So I look up and see him in the window every so often, causing myself to jump a bit. I was making my way along and I looked up and saw him in the far left window. He even looked out and waved, but my eyes drifted to the far right room and there was a figure standing there as well. I couldn't really make out features, but it was clearly a human figure. I looked away, then back, and it was gone. Just a figment of my imagination. I'm sure. So I kept painting. Suddenly, the lights in the cabin go out, and Brody comes out a few moments later to tell me to knock it off. I asked him what I was doing, and he said I kept turning off the lights while he was inside. I insisted it wasn't me, and I had left my back wall in a good minute, pointing to the wet paint to prove it. And he didn't believe me, but went back inside to keep going. I saw him turn the lights back on, but as I looked up, there was someone in the room. It was too quick for him to have gone there already, and a few minutes later, the light filled the room, and the figure was gone. And so it was replaced by Brody, of course, the lights on. The rest of the day went off without a hitch, and we were able to make great time getting all the cabins painted. When we went to the mess hall later that night for dinner and met up with a few friends from room to room they asked us about Willow Wood and if we had seen anything weird. I brought up my story, and Brody said something about the lights, but the weirdest part was that when Annalise said she saw someone moving outside of her cabin, none of us were over there, as we were in the other buildings. But she says she clearly saw a person's shadow moving along the perimeter of the cabin she was painting. She even had a picture of what looked like a person's shadow outside the window. The rest of the week went by with no real issues, and we had a lot of fun telling the ghost stories to the kids and whatnot that week after, scaring the bejesus out of all of them a couple of times. It's not the scariest story, and I explain it in a way generally with overactive imagination based on this being the most creepy area. The lights were probably just faulty electricity as we were in the middle of the woods, and the shadow outside could have just been her playing mind tricks on her. Either way, there is a part of me that still feels frightened about what happened that day. I have tons of more stories from my job. It was a pretty weird and wonderful experience, and I really miss it. Creepy ghost ladies and all. Just so you know, I'm working as a scout camp and cleaning a campsite when the ghost decided to mess with our lights. Oh, never mind. That's like a PS. Okay, that was interesting. That was interesting. But do you see he was trying to like explain it away? I don't know. I don't know if anyone here is like skeptical on that stuff. I mean, it's totally fine if you are. I just think it's funny that they were trying to explain all that away. I'm gonna upvote it. Can I upvote it? Oh no, I can't because the thread was archived. No. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know. I think that like, I don't know, here's my theory on it. It's totally okay if you disagree with me. I think that like people experience unexplained phenomena, but sometimes, especially for people that are not open-minded to it or they're more like skeptical, it maybe not come to them as they would expect it to, because again, like I feel, and this goes whether like you're a believer or not believer, but sometimes like a lot of the stuff with like paranormal, like all of this stuff is like over sensationalized, and so people may not feel like they experience things. Like for me personally, like based on that story, it is interesting that someone was like, hey, knock it off, you're turning the lights off on me, and he thought he saw a figure, and then he's still trying to like explain it away. For me, it's like, okay, yeah, probably because he wanted to see like the stereotypical shadow glowy figure, but that's not always the case. For me, that I still think that equates as like a paranormal experience, but hey, it's good that he's trying to explain it away though. Okay. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna call it a night. Kind of getting a little sleepy, but that was fun. These are always fun looking through these. I think I'm gonna try to do some lives where they're not all just scary stories. I actually wanted to do just more of like, I don't know, like just other different like stories on Reddit or something like that. Like more scandalous stories. I don't know. What do you guys think? I do love doing the scary stories though, because that's my jam. That's what I do. But I think it'd be fun to do like different types of stories as well. Oh my gosh, you work at security late at night? That must be... Okay, so I feel like it could go either way. It could be like a really fun, chill job. It could be a really spooky thing. Oh. Well, hospital. I've been wanting to do like I was trying to find the Reddit thread for like hospital stories, and I don't know where it is. There was like a whole thread. It might have been on like Cura. What's it called? What's the other Reddit thread? Not Reddit. It's is it Cura? How do you say it? Cura? Let me double check. Like the hospital stories. Yeah, what is the creepiest thing you've seen as a doctor or a nurse or something like that? And like people are having like it became like a paranormal thing. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I always tell people you can always message me, email me, whichever is easy. Where is it? It's a creepy scene as a doctor or nurse. I need to ask my sister about her experiences, because my sister, she is a nurse. She does experience, like, I don't know if she's experienced anything in the hospital, but she has had her own fair share of like paranormal experiences. Let me see. Okay, how about this? What's the creepiest, where is it? What's the creepiest thing you've seen in your neighborhood? That just gave me a memory unlock. I think I can share it now. I don't know if I didn't want to share it online because like I didn't know all the details yet and I didn't want to like give away everything. So I literally experienced the most so for context, I have a neighbor who she's not up to any good. She's really not. I actually feel really bad for her. But unfortunately, just the situation. So my neighbor, acquired a house from her mom, who I guess passed away recently. And now this lady, she doesn't pay any of the bills because I think she sells drugs. It just, there's a lot of things that have happened in the last year that have given me enough context for that. So like every night, like at 10 p.m., around this time actually, she'll be outside and she'll be loading up her car with like random junk. And there's always like these people that come in and out of her house, like homeless people that are coming in and out, just like interesting looking people, like eclectic group of people on top of that as well. And there was this one night where I was getting so freaking scared, you guys, because a man had gone missing from a different neighborhood. And her neighbor came to like look for him at that house because apparently her neighbor, he was like a retired man. He got off medication and started hanging out with my neighbor and started doing drugs again. And anyway, he had gone missing. This man had gone missing. And I kid you not, this is like such like movie, like something that would be like a funny twist in a movie, but not so funny, like actually scary, like kind of like Disturbia almost, if anyone's seen that movie. And I just saw them, like they would wait around like midnight and just go and start digging a hole, like this big ass hole in the front yard. And like the way that the front yard is set up is that it kind of has like a donut shaped, well not like a donut shaped, but like a half donut shaped pavement, you know, where you can like park your car in the front yard. And then they have, well, not donut shaped. Yeah, I'm really bad at explaining layouts. But she had like a bush, and you can't really see from where, like, from my view, because she's technically across the street from me. And I have like a Ring camera and everything. So anyway, they started digging a big ass hole behind this bush. Why would you dig a big ass hole at midnight? Can someone please like, am I just the only one? They were taking like 2 weeks rotating different people digging a hole at midnight in pitch darkness. Is that not weird? That was like scaring me because this guy had gone missing, and her neighbor came to like our neighborhood to go look for him. She reached out to me, and because we had like a Ring camera facing that yard, so she's like, "Hey, have you seen this man?" And then like I was getting all paranoid. I'm like, "This man's missing, and they're digging a hole." And anyway, he did show up though. They found him. Look, it was, my mind was just thinking worst case scenario, but that was creepy. The creepiest thing I've seen was a headless patient that died at her. Oh my God, no thank you. Oh my goodness. No. See, sometimes like yeah, I went to the Lexington, so it's like a World War II ship in Texas, and we went there to film for a show. Hopefully it's going to come out this summer. I don't know when the episode's going to come out. I'll share more about that. But yeah, some of the things that people were describing that they saw on the ship, I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Yeah, I would just pass out right there. I'd be like, okay, I'm fainting. Kudos to you for doing that. For like being able to, I'm assuming you were able to handle that well, but yeah, that would, again, I could literally do a whole bunch of TikTok series on my crazy neighbor. And yeah, just, and then the other thing that happened too, a couple weeks ago, I was just chilling out, maxing in my living room, and I just see like my neighbor like fist fighting with like some random person. And they literally, like, it's like a getaway car. The person that she's fist fighting with jumps into this vehicle, like a getaway car. And it's just, she's still going at it. She's still trying to hold on. I'm like, what is this? What is this? I don't know. It was just, yeah, it sucks. Having, like, troublesome neighbors sucks. It really sucks because they're loud. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so wait a minute. Sorry. I think I saw something I wanted to read out loud. Or maybe I'll just bookmark it. Let me open this. What? All right, well, I'll read this one. May not be like supernatural scary, but it says scary. What's the creepiest thing that you've seen in your neighborhood? A house not far from me with a clear view of the front of my house has a balcony on the front on the upper story. The old guy living there would sit out there during certain times in the morning and in the afternoon. Even on cold days, he'd sit out there. It didn't take long to work out that he was out there when all the teenage school kids were walking past his house to the nearby school. I did not like the guy one bit. He would walk past our fence, bark like a dog until our dog barked at him, and then yell, "Shut up, you stupid Mongor," at the dog. He would also be out on the balcony on weekend mornings at 7 a.m., yelling out to his old cronies and walking past with their dogs, whining about politics, loud enough to wake us up some 80 meters away. He renovated the balcony and put solid timber panels across the front of it. It looked horrible. I wondered why, as most people want the minimum obstruction when it comes to railings, and glass sheets are very popular now for that reason. I initially thought it might have been to protect the glass while he was working on it, but there was no glass, just these pilewood panels. A few months go by, and the neighbor 2 doors down from him, a friend of mine, called me over. He showed me his front yard and how you could see the inside of the balcony. It was only paneled on the front. He claimed the guy was sitting there with his hand down his pants when the schoolgirls walked past. Gross! I asked if he had called the cops, and he had, but all they did was knock on the door and ask him a few questions, and then walk straight to my friend's house to update them, flagging exactly who complained, and so the revenge started. He complained to council about every minor thing: a car parked slightly outside the boundary of the driveway, rubbish gatherings outside the garage to go to the scrap metal, the noise at 6 a.m., a manner of all things. I always felt that this guy was creepy, but this confirmed it. I don't know all the details, but my friend's wife eventually got a photo of him. His claim to the cops was that he had an itch and he needed to scratch. Oh, ew. And it was only for a second that he had his hand down his pants. How she wished she had taken a video rather than a shot. He disappeared for some months, not sure if it was to stay in the big house, an institution, or a health issue. He had no family as his kids disowned him. He abused them to the point of broken bones when they were teenagers. After he returned for a few days, the house went on the market. The first thing the new owners did was replace the plywood with glass on the balcony. Ooh! That was disturbing. That was so disturbing. Ugh. I feel like I can make a series of like my crazy neighbors. Now that was bad. That's like disturbing bad. That is very disturbing bad. So when I lived in Denver, I moved into a house, and ironically, not directly across the street, but like across the street and to the right was actually a friend of mine that lived there from like one of my past jobs at Apple. And we did not plan that. So it was really cool that like one of my neighbors happened to be someone I worked with. Anyway, so he was telling me that my neighbor across the street had a drone. And he would like, my friend caught the creepy neighbor flying the drone in people's like backyards and like up to the second floor. So like my friend caught the guy's drone facing his window, like his bedroom window. And then like my friend got so pissed, he ran outside, went to my neighbor's house. He's like, if I see you ever flying this drone ever again near my property or by my window, I'm calling the cops. I need you to stop that. So weird. So weird. But, and I only say this because like he had done other creepy things. I remember that this one time I had started like decorating my house with Halloween decorations. I think like was it the second to last week of September? I think it was like the second to last week of September, like maybe like but it was the end of September. That's all I'm saying. So I'm like putting small little things. I'm not even putting like a whole bunch of stuff. And he comes outside and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Decorating." And he's like, "You're weird." And he closes the door. And I'm kind of like, I'm weird. You're the one that like opened the door to ask what I was. Anyway, yeah, he was a weird neighbor though. I did not like him. I did not like him one bit. But yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like when you get like a creepy feeling about someone and then it turns out to be true. Like what the heck? What a disturbing. That's so disturbing. I know, that's really bad. Where was it? I have to upvote this. Let me see what else. Was there any comments? This is a stupid commenter that says, "You call him sick and equate that to being a criminal. Does everyone who masturbates at home fit that description?" Ew! I hate people. I hate like disturbing people. People like stand up for like disturbingly people. He's an old man jacking off to teenage women. Of course he's a sick person. Some people that comment. I literally just made a freaking video about stupid people like this. Shall I read another one similar to it? Okay, I had a creepy neighbor as well. He would whip out his private parts and start masturbating every time he left the apartment, and he knew I could see him. I called the police, who said I could place him under citizen's arrest, which I did. They promised that by law they would keep him 3 days until a court appearance. They lied. He was out in less than 24 hours. Instead of exhibiting himself to me, however, he chose to hang... Oh gosh, go to the garage. I'm done reading. This is too disturbing of a story. I'm not going to finish reading that. No, thank you. Anyways, that took a very big turn. Hello. That was... Oh my gosh. Creepy neighbor stories that made us want to move out. No ads, go away. So this is from ranker.com and it says, knocking in the middle of the night. My family and I used to live in a rough neighborhood when I was a kid. One night, it was just my mom, my 2 siblings, and I at home, and my dad was gone on a business trip. Around midnight, someone started knocking on our door. My mom woke up, went to the front door, and asked who it was. Yet, no one answered. She thought that maybe it was some kids playing ding-dong ditch, so she went back to bed. About 30 minutes later, someone starts knocking again. She gets up and peers through the side window to see if she can spot anyone out there, but nobody is there. She starts to worry, so she goes back to the room, grabs my dad's double barrel, and sits in the living room in the dark waiting. Then, more knocking happens. My mom begins shouting at whoever it is that she is going to call the cops and that if anyone tries to come in, she would shoot them. At around 2 a.m., the police finally show up and do a quick search outside of the house. And while we waited inside, after their search, they tell my mom they had found a piece of barbed wire about 4 feet long next to the front door and asked if it belonged to my mom. She said that it wasn't hers and asked why. The cop told her it belonged to whoever was knocking on the door. They were planning on strangling my mom with the barbed wire. When she opened the door to see who was knocking, they said that she was very smart to not open the door to see who was there. Otherwise, it would have cost her life. The cops said they patrol the neighborhood until morning and do a thorough investigation once there was daylight. That morning, as they were searching around the house, they found footprints leading around to the back of the house and up to my bedroom window. They had also found nicks in the window seal where the person was trying to pry it open to break in but failed. My mom always suspected it was this one neighbor because he would always stare at my mom through his curtains and wasn't very friendly. He also knew when my dad wasn't home, since he knows